Hi, and welcome back. As you can see, my portfolio didn't perform great today, but I just hit a huge milestone. I'm up to $3,000 in my portfolio. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the week here. Not very good, down about 1.5%. All time down just under or just over $50, but not a huge deal. I'll go ahead and talk about in this video where those losses have come from. The vast majority of them have been from Bitcoin, but again, I'm optimistic about Bitcoin. And if it weren't for those losses in Bitcoin, I would be in the green. So the first stock that we'll go ahead and take a look at is my largest holding, SPHD. So $386, so just about 13% of my portfolio is relegated to this ETF right here. As an S&P 500 index fund, it's not quite following what the NASDAQ has done. Clearly, it's going to follow more closely what the S&P 500 has done. I've done decently well on this, so up $7 or just under 2%. Talked about it before. This pays a monthly dividend, and that's really the reason I like this. In the last 5 years, I've talked about it many times. It's been quite stagnant, but again, not super concerned about that. The economy as a whole has done that, and that monthly dividend that comes with this ETF has been great for me. I'll go ahead and skip VTI. That's my general stock market ETF. Vivint Solar announced their earnings last week. And as we can see right here, and I talked about last week, they did miss their earnings by a decent margin. But the earnings call went fairly well, and people are decently optimistic about Vivint. Since that earnings call, it has struggled, but if we go ahead and take a look at the month, we can see that it did have this huge spike when that earnings call came out. Talked about it again before. I believe that this is a stock for the long run, and it should perform well in the long run, and that's why I want to keep it in my portfolio. So not a great deal of gains so far. I mean, I'm down, but I had seen gains when I started buying back in January and February. But I am looking forward to seeing how that does in the future. Now, some of my other holdings are Microsoft. I've talked about this one before because it's been so great for me. It's my best return on a stock yet, up almost 19%, $23 all time. Microsoft is hitting their all-time highs right now. The vast majority of those gains have come from news about Microsoft Azure, which is their cloud infrastructure. Amazon is the largest player in the cloud infrastructure network right now, and Microsoft is number 2, with Google coming in at number 3. As the cloud infrastructure for the entire world continues to exponentially increase within the next 5 years, pretty much everyone has growth seen with Microsoft, and they believe that it's a good stock to carry. And again, if we look at their earnings, they are consistently outpacing their earnings expectations. And most of all, their earnings are increasing. This is a decent dividend. So as we can see on the 12th of September, I was paid 46 cents. So coming up next month, we can expect another dividend. This is a stock that I'm looking forward to buying more of in the future if possible. That being said, at the moment, I'm only investing roughly $50 per week. So that may not be something that is viable right now, but certainly next year I would be looking forward to that. Coca-Cola did well today. Haven't done great on that in the past couple months. But again, I'm pretty optimistic about my portfolio as a whole. So Logitech has done well. Sony has done decently well. I want to talk about Walmart. This is one of my newest holdings. As you can see, a great day. They are actually having their earnings call tomorrow morning. The interesting thing here is that Walmart is expecting kind of a slow in their growth as Amazon and other online retailers continue to succeed. But at the same time, Walmart is such a large player, and it's the largest brick and mortar retailer in the world, that I see a lot of growth, not necessarily growth, I guess, but I see a potential to at least retain what they're doing right now and continued success. As we can see, the analysts at Robinhood have a 63% buy rating, and that would lead you to believe that they feel the same way. Again, this is a long-term stock. I think I've geared my portfolio more towards long-term gains because I'm so young. I am a college student. I think it's important to invest early, but at the same time to look for the long run. I also believe that with Black Friday coming up in the holiday season, that a retailer like Walmart should do pretty well this quarter. And as we can see over the last 5 years even, Walmart has done pretty darn well. I don't think this is a huge surprise to anyone, but again, this is a stock that I would like to increase my holding of if possible. Now, some of these haven't been huge for me. Nintendo has been fairly stagnant. AT&T I just haven't owned enough of. Charles Schwab is something that I want to take a look at. I've talked about it multiple times in the past. Over the last 3 months, we can see kind of this growth trend, but they've had a lot going on with their changes in how they are expecting earnings, where they're getting their revenues from. I talked about before, because of Robinhood's zero commission trading, Charles Schwab has changed the way that they run their company, and now they are now offering zero commission trading. I've talked about how most analysts believe that they're the most prepared for zero commission trading out of all these different firms. And at the same time, Charles Schwab is down significantly from their all-time high in 2018, so it was up to almost about $60. And so at that $42 right now, I'm fairly confident that this could be a moneymaker. Again, a decent dividend on this stock, and I'm going to go ahead and continue buying it. Now, I think the last one that we'll look at right here is Vivint. This is one of my REITs, and this is a very cheap stock relatively, coming in at just under $10. So this is something that's perfect for my budget and my $50 that I'm currently investing weekly. They also pay a pretty good dividend. So that $2.81 loss is not a huge deal right now. The last time that I got paid that dividend, it was only 41 cents because, as you can see, that was only paid with 3 shares. So at 13 3/4 per share, pretty good dividend for as small, or rather as affordable as this stock is. Again, their earnings have outpaced their expectations pretty consistently, very consistent earnings. Analysts expect that this is a great stock to buy, and I'm pretty high on it right now. And as we can see, I actually own 8 shares right now. So if I do go ahead and purchase more shares in the future, or really even keep the position that I have right now, those dividends will continue to increase. In the future, I think I'll go ahead and show I have a spreadsheet created of all my dividends and what I can expect. And my dividends are constantly increasing. That's something that's important to me for the stability of this portfolio and moving forward. And that's why I think it's important to mention. Now, of course, Bitcoin is my largest holding of anything in the portfolio, stock or otherwise. So as we can see, down about $78 on Bitcoin all time. So that explains where the vast majority of my losses are coming from. If we actually look at the last year, I hadn't invested very heavily in Bitcoin until, I would say, April or May. Started buying around here. Chose not to sell in here, which would have been wise, but hindsight's 2020, so it's not a big deal. I do believe that the halving coming up this May is going to be a big deal for Bitcoin. But the big point here is that these losses that Bitcoin has seen reflect my portfolio pretty greatly, because roughly 1/6 or 1/7 of my portfolio is made up of Bitcoin. Now, I've continued to buy this weekly, and as we can see, my position right now is about 5.35% of what one Bitcoin. All the projections that I've seen think that Bitcoin will again max out roughly 18 months after that halving, which would put it sometime towards the end of 2021 in its peak, which makes perfect sense. As we all know, that last peak that Bitcoin saw was in December of 2017, so that puts it almost 4 years on spot. The interesting thing here is I've done some more research on where people believe Bitcoin's going to peak, and I've seen estimates anywhere from 55,000 to 120,000 to 240,000. Of course, that's a huge range, and no one knows exactly where it's going to peak, but at the same time, any of those leave a huge margin for me, a ton of money to be made, and I truly believe that Bitcoin can succeed. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I guess I could cover it in another video. Just let me know if you'd like to see that. And so to wrap this up, I'll just go ahead and show the month, 3 months, and a year again. I think, again, this is important for transparency to show that, sure, I'm losing money right now, but I am consistently putting money into this portfolio. And the way I see it is that, nobody's a perfect trader. Nobody's perfect at saving, but I think it's important to go ahead and save this money now so that I don't have to worry about these things in the future. So again, down nearly 2% all time. But I'm not super concerned about it, and I'm looking forward to the future. This $3,000 is a huge milestone for me. One thing I always forget to mention is I do put my Robinhood code in the description of the video. What that means is if you go ahead and sign up with my link, Robinhood will give you a free stock and give me a free stock. That's a big deal, and it's a free stock. So go ahead and look forward to that. I'll be back next week. Thank you.